Hello, everyone, and welcome back. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today, wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. And I gotta start with this from the Motley Fool. Could buying XRP today set you up for life? Now, the Motley Fool usually hates XRP, but this is what they had to say. Despite looking cheap at $2 per unit, XRP is the fifth largest cryptocurrency with a market cap of $125 billion. That means investors shouldn't expect life-changing returns in the short term. That said, an improving regulatory environment coupled with XRP's active development team could lead to a strong long-term performance. I was surprised they even said that. Usually they are very anti-XRP. But here's what it comes down to. If you truly understand what XRP was built to do, you see the big picture then. When you realize XRP can move anything of value all around the world in a matter of seconds for less than a penny, you get the picture. Because everybody is going to be utilizing something like XRP. Everybody wants that. They don't want slow, expensive anymore. They want fast, cheap, and secure. A digital economy at an inflection point. What to expect for digital assets in 2026. This comes from the World Economic Forum. And most likely a lot of this will be talked about at that Davos event that's coming up. So regulatory clarity facilitates increased adoption and scalability of digital assets. Asset tokenization is accelerating, which is impacting capital markets, liquidity, and access to investment products. Blockchain increasingly becomes infrastructure as adoption shifts from experimentation to enterprise-grade deployment. They already know the days of hype are coming to an end in crypto. And as we watch regulations get put in place and institutions start flooding this space, things are going to change very quick. Then they go on to talk about CBDCs as well. The World Economic Forum, which Larry Fink is now co-chair of, they've always been pushing for the central bank digital currency. And honestly, I am not a fan of CBDCs at all. It also couples with digital ID, which is something nobody is going to want. Imagine your entire life tied to a digital ID, your work history, your health history. Every time you go and apply for a job, they're going to choose someone else over somebody that might have previous medical issues or previous gaps in their work history and so on. But digital ID, it's also, if you speak out or say things they don't like, they could just shut off your central bank digital currency. They could shut off your money. Ripple and Hedera are both sponsors for the upcoming World Economic Forum in Davos. Now, the fact that Ripple's going to be there and Hedera is going to be there as well. And Larry Fink is also going to be there. You honestly think Brad Garlinghouse and Larry Fink aren't going to have some sort of secret conversations going on? You're crazy if you think that's not going to happen. I'm telling you, Ripple is aligned with the elites. BlackRock is aligned with the elites. Something bigger is building in the background. Brad Garlinghouse and David Schwartz on the XRP Ledger ecosystem and value propositions in relation to XRP. Customers don't care about which technology they're using. Take a listen to this.
Say, Brad, here's the value proposition of XRP and XYZ use case. Here's the value proposition.
I don't think about it that way. I don't. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. That customers don't care which technology you're using. That you want them. That they want their problem solved. You know, one of Ripple's core kind of go-to-market products has been around payments. you don't go and say, well, hey, this is how we're going to do these things and get into the weeds necessarily. You approach them and say, okay, let's talk about corridors that are priorities. Let's talk about how you're managing liquidity today and how you're pre-funding and how we can reduce those costs, how we can improve the speed at which that's happening. More often than not, the fact that it's happening through a stable coin. I mean, today, as I think you and I have talked about before, Ripple uses stable coins in our payment flows today. We've used USDT, we've used USDC. Actually, I may not even know. We may have used other things that we don't necessarily go to the customer and say, here's exactly how this is happening. So I think about it really as part of that abstraction we're talking about for mass adoption. I mean, this is on the enterprise side, but they want a problem solved. And one of the things I certainly talk a lot.
And he's right. They just want the problem solved. They don't care how you do it. They just want it to happen. And customers in the future, when you're going and doing transactions, and even if you're not in crypto, you could be utilizing the XRP ledger and not even knowing it. People are going to be utilizing XRP and they're not even going to know it's happening. Everything is going to be running in the background. All the customer is going to know is that their transaction went through the same way a transaction goes through today using a debit card or a credit card. And that's what people want. But they also want fast, cheap, and secure. They don't want to wait for money to leave their bank account anymore. Say somebody goes in and they buy something on a Friday and their checking account, it's not going to reflect that transaction sometimes until Monday. And if it's a holiday weekend, maybe on Tuesday, the money finally leaves the bank. Brad Garlinghouse says, while a little buried in Wall Street Journal print edition, the latest CPI data shows a 3.5% reduction in financial services costs for consumers. Dare I say that this could be in part because of the administration's pro-crypto policies. When it comes down to financial services, people don't want to pay fees anymore. They want those fees to be gone. That's what Ripple set out to do. Cut out the middleman and cut out the JP Morgans and the Goldman Sachs and the Bank of Americas of the world, because that's where all the fees come from. That's who gets rich on cross-border payments right now. No giveaways. Urgent warning issued to XRP community amid major scam threat. So crucial warning is now issued, and that's because there is so many scams going on. Full-blown scam attack across the board. I'm seeing fake posts by fake XRP Ledger Labs and Zomin accounts. I'm seeing fake employees offering support and answering questions. I'm seeing fake Zomin websites. Be vigilant. Only trust in app support. We don't do giveaways. There's not going to be any airdrops on XRP. I'm telling you this now. Nobody's going to double your bag. And as XRP starts really climbing up in price, you're going to see scams like you've never seen before. You're going to see euphoric times. People are going to be so euphoric because their portfolio is skyrocketing. And at the same time, you're going to have people getting hit with scam after scam. People promising to double their XRP and so on. You don't want to fall for a scam. We are way too close now. Don't lose your crypto. Black Swan Capitalist says XRP would become the digital counterpart to central bank. He says, for 8 years, I've been saying XRP would become the digital counterpart to central bank and institutional gold reserves. Day by day, it's proving true. He talks about strong utility and institutional adoption, global reach and technological growth, stability and financial integration, market presence, and long-term potential. Anybody that looks around right now, you could see this entire system coming together now in real time. I mean, every day Ripple's getting a new license in this country or that country. Those are rails that XRP is going to be running on. The rail system is almost complete. The next phase for BlackRock and Franklin Templeton and so on, they're all going to be tokenizing assets. And those assets are going to be coming on chain. And as they're coming on chain, they're going to need something to move those assets as well. Because people are not just going to tokenize something and then let it sit there. They're going to want to move those tokenized assets. That's another place where XRP will solve a major problem, and it will provide any liquidity needed. But this has been coming together quicker than I even thought it would. I mean, honestly, if you went back to 2022, people said we're not going to see anything happen by 2030. But now it's coming together in real time. We are way closer than people think. XRP could hit all-time high this month. I see a lot of people now saying expect an all-time high by the end of January. And I could see that happening. It all comes down to where Bitcoin goes from where it's sitting right now. Or we need to decouple from Bitcoin. XRP could possibly just start running without Bitcoin. We've seen that happen so many times in the past. Will it happen again? There's so much uncertainty still in the market. We need a good push upward. That will bring back all the momentum. All that FOMO money will come back into this space. I don't think retail is fully back yet. Most people are still very fearful in crypto. XRP price could surpass $6,000 in this rare scenario. They're talking about XRP becoming more scarce than Bitcoin. Now, we know what's going on with XRP, the ETF inflows, people locking up their XRP, other people creating treasuries around XRP. That doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. And there's a good chance all the XRP might be taken out of circulation. The entire circulating supply could dry up. Now, people said that's never going to happen because Ripple is going to start dumping the escrow. Well, Ripple can't do that because they get 1 billion tokens per month, and most of the time Ripple locks back 700 or 800 million of those tokens anyway. But we will see scarcity for XRP. There's going to be retail FOMO, institutional FOMO, ETF FOMO, and so on. But what about this scenario? The price of XRP has already been agreed to by the BIS, World Economic Forum, and all central banks. The only questions are, what is that price? And when will they greenlight it? Will they start it at 3 digits, 4 digits, and gradually increase it over the years? Or will they reprice it at 10K, 100K, or higher? We'll find out very soon. Now, I see so many posts like this all day long. I think there is going to be a set price for XRP, but I think it's going to come after a run-up. In other words, they're going to allow the price of XRP to go to $10, then $20, $30, and so on. And along the way, as people are selling off their XRP, whales are going to be scooping it up. Institutions are going to be scooping it up. People are going to get locked out of this cryptocurrency at some point. Because if the price rises and scarcity is happening at the same time, we're going to see, you might have to wait until somebody sells their XRP before you can buy some. And it is going to be at very high prices. So I don't think they would come out of the gate at maybe 4 or 5 digits, but I could see them coming out of the gate at around $500 per XRP. 99.99% of retail would be gone if that happens. And sure, those people would make quite a bit of money. But here's the thing. If you were to sell at that price point, you would most likely then be out of XRP forever. In other words, it would be totally taken out of circulation because you're going to see central banks. There's going to be liquidity pools in between central banks of XRP. The BIS had it in all of their white papers. For years, I showed it to people in video after video. BRICS will most likely have a liquidity pool of XRP because of what this cryptocurrency is built to do. So once they get retail out, then all of a sudden they push the price to 4 digits, and maybe they park it there for a few weeks, get the last little bit of retail shaken out. Then it goes to 10K. If that was to happen, it would be over for Bitcoin. Bitcoin would most likely slip out of the top 10 because I think this isn't just going to happen with XRP. It's going to happen with XLM, XDC, and so on. Different price points, but it's going to be higher price points for these cryptocurrencies because they have utility. But until it happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.